Have you ever stared at a history textbook and felt a strange knot in your stomach? Like you're looking at a bad Photoshop job of the past? We all remember sitting in that third period history class, memorizing dates and dynasties, accepting history as a straight line, cause and effect. Simple. But what if that was the first lie? What if the timeline of the world's most powerful families isn't a record of truth, but a receipt of a crime? We are looking at a puzzle where the edges have been trimmed off and the middle pieces were thrown into a bonfire. When you actually start pulling at the loose threads of European royalty, ancient maps, and the impossible architecture in our own backyards, the entire fabric of what we learned in school begins to unravel. It feels like a glitch in the simulation. And once you see the gaps, the convenient fires, the missing ancestors, and the phantom empires, you can never unsee them. I didn't start this journey trying to break history. Honestly, I was just nerding out on royal marriages. The Habsburgs, the Tudors, the Romanovs, you know, the usual suspects. On the surface, it looks like a perfect, unbroken chain of influencers running the world. But the deeper you dig, the more you find ghosts in the machine. Here is the first major red flag. Look at the mothers. In the 18th and 19th centuries, powerful kings were constantly marrying women from minor nobility. We are told these were just German princesses from towns so small they barely warranted a dot on a map. But when you try to trace these women's family trees back just 2 or 3 generations, the trail goes ice cold. It's sparse. It's almost as if these women didn't exist until the exact moment they were needed to marry into a dynasty. Why does this matter? Because these marriages consolidated power across the entire Western world. If you care about bloodline purity as much as these royals claim to, why would you accept a bride with no verifiable history? Unless, of course, her history wasn't minor. Unless her history was something you were desperately trying to hide. Take a look at the Romanovs in Russia. The official story is a clean descent from the Rurik dynasty, but investigate the records, and you find transitions that feel managed, manufactured. There are whispers, academic rumors usually buried in footnotes, of Tatar ancestry in these lines. And I don't mean Mongolian, I mean Tartarian. And this brings us to the elephant in the room. The word that gets you laughed out of a university lecture hall, but explains everything. Tartaria. If you pull up a map of Asia from the 1600s or early 1700s, maps drawn by Dutch, French, or British cartographers whose lives depended on accuracy, you won't see a blank space. You will see a massive territory labeled Grand Tartary or Grand Tartary. This wasn't a small region. We are talking about an empire stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Pacific Ocean, dwarfing the size of Europe. These maps show specific cities, flags, and multiple royal courts. But by the mid-1800s, this massive civilization just ghosts us. The maps change. The labels shift to Russia or Chinese Tartary, and eventually, the name disappears entirely. The official narrative gaslights us into believing Tartary was just a vague geographical term, like saying the Midwest. But you don't draw specific skylines and capitol buildings for a vague geographical term. You don't mark trade routes for a place that doesn't exist. So, where did the people go? Where did the infrastructure go? This is where the architecture tells on itself. You can lie in a book, but stone is terrible at keeping secrets. Go to St. Petersburg. Go to Vienna. Go to the outskirts of the Forbidden City in Beijing. Or just go to Washington, D.C. Look at the U.S. Capitol. You see the same impossible old-world architecture. Massive columns, specific mathematical proportions, and identical construction techniques. Historians call this neoclassical revival. They say architects were just copying the trend. But does it really make sense that rival empires, supposedly at war or isolated from each other, simultaneously decided to build the exact same way, using the same advanced engineering at the exact same time? It looks less like copying and more like a shared, inherited technology from a lost civilization that was already there. A civilization that was dismantled, whitewashed, and rebranded. And how do you hide a civilization that big? You burn the receipts. Literally. Between 1650 and 1850, a suspicious number of great fires ravaged the capitals of the world. The Royal Palace in Madrid burned in 1734. The Library of Congress burned in 1814. The Houses of Parliament in London burned in 1834. The Winter Palace, the archives in Hanover. The list goes on. We are told these were accidents. Candles falling over, dry wood catching fire. But look at the timing. These fires happened precisely when the modern historical narrative was being solidified. They destroyed genealogies, land registries, and original birth records right at the moment of transition. It's the history reset equivalent of wiping a hard drive before the feds break down the door. After the smoke cleared, new documents appeared. New lineages were established. The Tartarian Empire lands were suddenly Russian or Chinese, and the royal families of Europe were securely European, their true origins obscured by ash and ink. We know that language was often a barrier for queens arriving in new courts. But private letters suggest these families communicated effortlessly in private. Was it just French? Or was there another asterisk, lingua franca asterisk, a language of their shared origin that they spoke behind closed doors, while the rest of the world was taught to view them as separate nations? When you look at Siberia today, you're told it was always a frozen wasteland, sparsely populated by nomadic tribes until the Russians arrived. But the records from before the reset describe cities, stone cities, trade networks, a civilization that doesn't fit the narrative of primitive natives. If Siberia was the heart of a global power structure, Grand Tartary, and that structure collapsed or was overthrown, the victors wouldn't just conquer the land. They would colonize the history. They would take the buildings, rename the cities, burn the archives, and rewrite the bloodlines to make themselves the original owners. The fact that you are still watching this means you have the critical mind necessary to question the official story. Most people are happy with the comfortable lie, scrolling past the truth. But you chose to look into the void. That curiosity is dangerous to the status quo, and that is exactly why you need to protect it. We are only scratching the surface of hidden history. There are more maps to read, more fires to investigate, and more dots to connect. You now possess a lens that allows you to see the world differently, to see the seams in the narrative. So, if you want to keep pulling these threads and proving that the past is stranger than fiction, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button so the algorithm knows we're onto something, and hit subscribe to join the investigation. Welcome to Dark History.